Hey, 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 welcome into another episode of Out of Bounds. I'm your host, Todd Fox, back for week 17 recap with your other host of the show,
Carlos.
a.k.a. Rick Davis.
Bitch.
Why don't you fill him in, Rick, on how we're doing as far as the picks,
Dude,
because things have gotten interesting, haven't they?
they've gotten extremely tight. Right now, after I just did the total, you had me by 3 games. You were 143, 96, and 2. I was 140, 99, and 2. Now this week you moved up a little bit. You moved up to 152 wins, 102 losses, and 2 ties.
Oh,
And I
man.
moved up to 151 wins, 103 losses, and 2 ties. So we're right there. We're a game apart.
Oh, man. You want to talk about the money picks for this week, dude. It's going to come down to everything. Who's been right, who's been wrong all season for bragging rights between me and Rick Davis.
Next week at this time, I might have some of those dollar store confetti poppers where I'm gonna come up with my cool shades and everything.
He's gonna go all out, man. We'll see what happens, man. But dude, it's gonna come down to our picks. But before we get to that, we're gonna go with exactly what's got us here. We're gonna start talking about all the games and recap it a crazy NFL week because obviously right off the bat, if you want, you might as well take a shout out. We'll do the same thing here. Give a thoughts on our prayers to our boy from Buffalo, DeMar, right there, as he took a huge. I don't know how to explain it, man. You want to give it a shot because it's tough, man. I've never seen a guy go down like that. What do you call it? The
Mark
way,
Hamlin.
yeah, in the ambulance, because usually we've seen the ambulance come out before. This isn't the first time, but for him to be on the floor that long, and then you knew when they kept going to commercial, they were doing CPR and stuff like that. I mean, he basically died on the freaking field.
Well, even if he didn't die, like you gotta look at it like, man, hopefully he comes out okay. But dude, like when listening to all the reports coming out, he's gonna have brain damage and his lungs are worried about his lungs. Like it's like one of those tricky ones. He's so young, and everybody wants to see him come out and be 100% back to who he was. But I don't think he's gonna ever be. He's gonna forget bits and pieces of his life. I don't think he's ever gonna play football again. Not that that matters. Because when in that situation, it's like it's sad because the one thing that really got me was when they reported that his mom was riding with him in an ambulance to the hospital. That one got me a little bit, man. I was like, man, because that's everybody that's had a mom, everybody that does have a mom or had a mom, and then everybody that has kids can absolutely relate to that one. But the one that really devastated me and the one that really had me like that touched me the most is that his toy drive fund, he was just looking to raise I don't know how much, I think 2,500, or that's how much he was able to raise and up until this point, this past Monday, and that thing today is at over 6 million in funds. Like that's how much people have donated to his funds. It hit me because it made me feel like, man, dude, like people literally wait until you're like on your deathbed or dying or already dead for everybody to show support to you. Like, but when you're alive, people kind of like, oh, that's just who is it? Demar Hamlin. You know, it's kind of one of those type of deals. Like, it's sweet that it's happening, but it's bittersweet. That's where I'm looking for. Because it sucks that it's not that he's not witnessing it. Hopefully, he comes out on top, feeling good. But it is like you got to think how's he gonna like operate in life? Because if he's got brain damage, he's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, well said. Like I said, I've seen players get carted off with spinal injuries and things like that. The reason why I said he was dead, he was clinically dead. His heart stopped. They had to bring him back twice. Going to the hospital, having him on the ventilator, like each monkey said here, right here, on the, it was a freak accident. Packers gamers chiming in too about it. It's crazy, and I think it caught the nation. And yeah, you're right. It sucks. People don't really know how good of a person you are until stuff like that happens. So it's unfortunate. I think he's got thoughts and the prayers, the real ones from around America. It's a high profile thing. He's got the best doctors, so hopefully that goes. My only concern outside of his life, obviously, because his life comes first, is just, what does this do for NFL? I mean, are we going to go to South Park type videos where it's, powder puff girls type thing? Or, we already saw them with those cushionary helmets. This is just an accident. This was, this is something that unfortunately happens in any kind of sport. We've seen baseball players die, or have heart attacks and stuff like that. It's all about timing. Unfortunately, you never know what your body can do, and that wasn't even the hardest hit. It just something clicked. It was just the perfect, unfortunate timing. So I'm hoping that people don't overreact as far as the sport is concerned. But in the long run, we have the necessary precautions to test these players and athletes as best as we can, so that something like this doesn't happen. Because maybe this was something when they went through draft day, they didn't fully check his heart, or if it was a heart condition, because they're saying it was. Maybe they got to do a better job at that. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't put this on the game of football itself. This is just something unfortunate.
Now it's gonna be tough moving forward, but I think eventually in time, like everything else, like when we've all lost somebody in life, and it's hard to do at first, but I think that we sit in our sorrow and we like those guys, it's gonna be tough. And people are like, how can the Bills and the Bengals play that game again? How can they resume the game? Now I got one better for everybody out there. What happens if the Bengals and the Bills are meeting up in the playoffs? What are they going to do then? And the Bengals are hosting the Bills in that game. What's going to happen? They're going to go back to that same field. No, it's going to be devastating. I don't know if they'll move that game to the Buckeyes, because Columbus and Cincinnati are so close there, where they might think about doing something like that, so that way they can avoid that whole entire situation. But I'm with you on that. I think they're gonna have to start doing tests, and they're gonna have to start asking questions about like genetics, and like down the line, like what does your family have that we should be worried about? Like they gotta start digging into the family history to avoid this problem. But one thing that they've been talking about in the media, like ESPN and all, is they keep bringing up guys that have passed away and during the sports. Like what's his name? Jeff Gordon, was that the guy's name? The guy that died in a car accident during NASCAR.
No, that was Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, him, and then another football player for the Detroit Lions. I mean, God, people just when it's their time to go, it's their time to go. There's nothing you can do about it. I think that within about a month's time, people will look back at it like, man, they got to be more careful, and they got to get like genetics tests done. Honestly, that's the best thing to do. That's all I've got, man. Without repeating what everybody else has done, prayers, thoughts and prayers, and all that, and hopefully rooting for the best, but. At this point, like the family's got to ask themselves, like if he's barely holding on, or if like he can't do it, do you bother bringing him back, because the recovery period is going to take a toll on him, and then his brain, who knows how his brain's going to react? Like, are you like after he gets out of the hospital, is it going to be worth saving it? Like, it's just so much that goes on with the situation like that.
Yeah, there's no way he's going to come back. So, and I think you'd said it off air too, that he's not going to come back. And we've seen real quick. Last thing I'll say on it is we've seen a couple NBA players die too, either via what do you call it, G League, or we saw back in the day of Boston Celtics. I forgot the guy died on the court. He had a hole in his heart and they didn't know. So stuff like that happens, man. It's unfortunate. Let's move it forward here. We're going to talk about these recaps. So again, I'm right there with you. Thoughts and prayers to the family, the Hamlin family. And if we have any updates, we'll post and everything else. And I'm sure you guys will hear about it as well. We're going to go back here to Week 17, which kicked it off. It was Dallas and Tennessee. Tennessee got a start from their quarterback here, their third-string quarterback, as it was not their first-string quarterback. And Dallas took full advantage. In this game, Dallas would win 27-13. Dak looked pretty, I wouldn't say decent, but pretty average. He threw a couple picks, and Tennessee stuck in there for quite some time till about the fourth quarter before they couldn't do anything anymore. Thoughts on that game?
Really, nothing. It was just the obvious outcome. I knew that Dallas, because the talent alone, the Titans, they're like on a 5-game losing streak. It was one plus what do you make of Marcus Mariota? Who's their quarterback? Like, I don't know, man. Like, what do you make of that whole entire team? That whole entire team is just dumps, bro. Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing other than Derrick Henry. There's nothing that anybody can care about in Tennessee other than what you call it, Derrick Henry. Their stadium is even a dump hole, bro. Like that's one of the most ugliest stadiums, Nissan stadiums. Like just get rid of the Titan. Yeah, give them a whole new stadium, and it's time to rebuild, man. Build that thing over.
Well, they are working on it. It should be done in 3 years because they just broke ground on their stadium.
They need it, man.
Yeah, their defense is good, but I think they blow up the offense this year. Josh Jobs was the quarterback, and
Yes.
he clearly wasn't ready. He did an okay job, but he made a lot of mistakes in this game and got away with a few passes as well. But you're not going to beat the Dallas Cowboys like that. And Dallas couldn't run the ball, but like I said, Dak did just enough in this game to get the win.
Yeah, not really too much to say about this game. I mean, it was just like I said, obvious. Tennessee in the beginning of the game, they looked like they were going to pull the upset, but then after a while, it was just too much talent came. Too much talent for Tennessee to handle, and then it was just an easy win for Dallas.
Yep. That'll move us on to our next game because I think we both got the you got the win in that game. I went with Tennessee, so I took the loss. Arizona Cardinals. They said, hey, you know what, J.J. Watt, you're a supposed Hall of Famer. I don't know how. I have my thoughts on that. I'm a hater when it comes to Watt. But he came out there and he's going to retire at 33. And I think his final, next to last game, they lost 20-19. The Falcons came back on a Young Wei Koo field goal. The fourth quarterback to start for the Cardinals this year was David Blah. And he was Blah, 24 of 40 for 222 yards. He was sacked a couple times. James Conner rushed for 79 yards. Trey McBride had 79 yards through the air. Desmond Ritter, is he your quarterback for the future, Atlanta? I don't think so. 19 for 26, 169 yards. The ground game saved him with Aguilar and Patterson. Falcons win 20-19 on one of the most boring games of the week.
Next. No, let me see if I can find something to pick out in this game. Other than Cordero Patterson taking a step back or two steps back, it doesn't look like Atlanta's got much of anything. I mean, their leading receiver was Michael Pruitt, the former Minnesota Vikings practice squad tight end. That guy was on the practice squad of Minnesota, and he was their leader. It's clear that Atlanta doesn't have anything in the tank whatsoever. It's time for they're ready for the offseason to begin, along with the Cardinals. The only thing I want to know about the Cardinals, what are the Cardinals going to do going forward with Cliff Kingsbury and your favorite quarterback, Kyler Murray, the Diva? He's not going to be ready until like about mid-October to November, so it's going to be interesting to see what the Cardinals do. Are they going to blow it up? Are they going to try and trade DeAndre Hopkins for a couple picks? It's off-season mode for both these teams.
It sure is. Right now you're just trying to see if there's any players that step out to you that are going to make a run for other teams. So that 20-19, that was probably the who gives a fuck game of the week. That'll move us on to the next game. The Bears. Boy, I did not see this coming. They're 1-7 on the road. They're 3-13 overall. Detroit gets to 500, which is crazy. I didn't see that coming either. They're 8-8, 5-4 at home. We'll talk about what the ramifications of them being where they're at right now and still in playoff contention on the last week of the season, although hanging by a thread. The Lions win 41-10 convincingly. Justin Fields again. If you bet the over-under on pass attempts or how many times he gets to 21 only or below, you would have won a lot of money. Justin Fields went 7 for 21, just a robust 75 yards throwing. He was sacked 7 times for minus 45. So you take away those sack yards, he only threw for 30 yards and a touchdown and a pick. He rushed, though, for 132 yards on 10 attempts, so there's that. But Jared Goff continues to shine. He was 21 of 29, 255, 3 touchdowns and no picks. Jamal Williams rushed for 144 yards. Detroit, are they scary to you?
I think Detroit is they're a legit team, but I wanted to touch on the Bears. Outside of Justin Fields breaking off a few runs here and there, that Bears team is absolutely just, I don't know what you call that Bears offense. That was a horrible display. They couldn't get nothing going. I heard like knowing how Detroit, when they get things going at home, it was an easy one for me to pick because it was Detroit's last home game. and fans were going to do everything possible to put them in position to go into Green Bay with the win or go home mentality. We'll talk about that one tomorrow, but Justin Fields, that's all Chicago has, man. That's all Chicago has, and they keep letting them go out there and run around. I don't know if they play them in the last against Minnesota. That game's going to be meaningless to both teams. But yeah, man, like there's nothing in Chicago. There's nothing to talk about with Chicago offense or defense. Like that team is what it is. But as far as the Detroit Lions, do you want to talk about somebody that's resurrecting his career? Jared Goff. Look at his numbers: 21 for 29, 255 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Jamal Williams, the leader in the NFL for with most rushing touchdowns, had another pretty solid game, 144 yards, an average of almost 7 yards, 6.5 yards. DeAndre Swift. So who's really the starter out there? You got two backs that can start for any team in the NFL based on what they've done so far, and even there's another Williams, Jay Williams, number 9. That's the rookie. That's the rookie. They're even throwing the rookie wide receiver back there. He ran the ball for 40 yards. That guy's explosive fast. He had his first touchdown in my face when I was in attendance. So he caught like a bomb on me on us on the Vikings. But yeah, looking at the numbers for Detroit, like look. How many receivers did Jared Goff target? He targeted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wide receivers targeted. And he's not cherry picking anybody because if you look at who he threw his touchdowns to, he didn't throw it to Amon St. Brown. He didn't throw it to DJ Chark, Khalif Raymond. He threw it to DeAndre Swift, the running back, and he threw it to a guy named Wright. That guy, but that's the tight end. That's the guy that's taking over for TJ Hawkinson. So I mean, he's not cherry picking anybody. And their defense is sneaky good. Look at all the players that had tackles. Look at the numbers. How many players come up in a defensive stat sheet? How many of those players have made a tackle? That's a total team effort. There's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 players in and out of the rotation were in there, and they were all in total team form. That team to me does scare me because of what they've been able to do against Minnesota. They've already beaten Green Bay once, but we can't cover that Green Bay Detroit game until tomorrow. That one's going to be it's the last game of the regular season, so we'll save that one for tomorrow. I'm not even going to talk about it, but I'd love to talk about it right now, but we got to save that for tomorrow's show.
Yeah, there's going to be ramifications on that game, and obviously the logo I'm wearing. Our game is going to affect who gets in. Their is going to affect. So we'll definitely talk about that as we move forward. But the Broncos, we're going to get into the Broncos game because last thing I'll say on Goff is you've seen a lot of 3 touchdowns, no picks from him. 2 touchdowns, no picks. 4 touchdowns, no picks. He's playing. He's playing at a very elite level right now.
You want to know what I think is ultimately helping out the Detroit Lions and putting them in position to possibly make the playoffs?
What's that?
Their coaching staff is nothing but all pro or all like. Look at their coaching staff. They've got Campbell, a former NFL player that's well known and respected as a player and now as a coach. They've got former respected talented players as coaches. Those guys actually have a high football IQ. I look at the way because they're working with Jared Goff and they know how to work with him because there's wide receivers out there there's wide receivers on that coaching staff that they're like, okay, we need to do this. And then they talk to the Amon St. Brown and all that. So yeah, Detroit's man, dude, it's scary to think that Detroit if they're not even supposed to be in this position and they're right there. And imagine if they can start building upon this. They already have the number 1 offensive line in the entire NFL. Like that's why the running game, their 2 running backs are tearing it up, Swift and Williams, so they can pass and they can run. And Jared Goff has not. I can't remember the last time I heard him getting sacked multiple times in one game. Like that offensive line takes care of business. Those are some hogs over there. Be careful if Detroit makes it to the playoffs. They're going to go into San Francisco. Oh, San Francisco and Detroit would be a really good one. That would be a really good one, but we'll see. We'll see who comes out on top of Detroit and Green Bay because that offensive line can hold down against any front seven. And I'd love to see Detroit in the playoffs, man. But we'll see.
Just remember too this little tidbit: they have the Rams' first-round pick along with theirs, so they're in a similar situation that Seattle is in. They got the Broncos' first-round pick, or the Rams' first-round pick. So we'll see what happens. And speaking of the Broncos, our boy, Broncos country, let's ride, goes into Kansas City and takes another fat L as the Broncos go to 4-12, 1-8 on the road. Boy, I'm loving it like McDonald's. Kansas City Chiefs go to 13-3, 7-1 at home. Mr. Crooked himself. He walks with a crooked. He leans to the left a little
Does
bit.
have a weird ass way of life, doesn't he? Weird ass haircut, weird ass voice, weird ass walk, weird ass run. It's passing is unnatural, but like there's something weird about that dude. Everything is weird about that dude, Patrick Mahomes, man.
He possibly could be an alien. I don't know.
I would bet on it.
Russell Wilson threw the ball 38 times for only 222 yards, touchdown and a pick. He was sacked a bunch of times. Murray was 12 for 56 on the ground. Who cares? Patrick Mahomes, 29 of 42, 328, three touchdowns and a pick. But they left it open. I mean, they really did. This game was a lot closer than it should have been. But in the end, Kansas City continues to keep pace, and that was supposed to affect the Monday night game, which it did, and is a reason why they're still going to play the Monday night game regardless, or I don't know when. It's not going to be this week. But they're probably going to have to squeeze that Cincinnati game in at some point because now Kansas City's fighting for that first spot.
Most definitely. Looking at the scores by quarters, you would think that Denver was going to run away with that game because they were up 17-13 in the third quarter. And even if you look at the entire game, like Denver was hanging there with them, man. And like if it wasn't for that interception that Russell Wilson threw it towards the end of the game, man, Denver was going to win this game. Man, I felt it, and it was right there. He just made that stupid interception, man. I was like, man, and it's like I always look at it when it happened to me. I didn't start paying attention to it until Atlanta. It was the COVID year. It was 2020 when the Falcons had just fired their head coach a week before Minnesota had played Atlanta in Minnesota. And those Falcon players came out and they balled out. They blew us out in Minnesota. It's because that coach, when you change over to a new coach, players play a lot better. And they play with a different scheme and they're more free. They know they're playing for a guy that's not really a coach. He's just an intern, so they're just going to let loose. They're finally feeling comfortable. So I was like, Denver's got a chance at upsetting them. And were they so close to doing so. But you know, it is what it is. It's only a 3-point win. That's bad. That's a bad look on Kansas City. I don't care if it's in the division or not. They're supposed to run away and blow out a team like this. They got complete opposite records. So I wouldn't really bank on Kansas City making it to the Super Bowl. I still got Cincinnati making it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC.
Could be either Cincinnati or Buffalo. The Chiefs could make it too, but I put them slightly favored over Kansas City, so I'm with you on that one. Then we'll move to our next game, the Miami Dolphins, which the coach came out stupidly and said we're not scared of the cold. He even wore a shirt saying we're not. But unfortunately, since the month of December started and into January, he is now 0-5. So very smart right there by your coach, jinxing the team as they fall to 8-8, go to 3-6 on the road. Of course, Tua was not playing because they can't help him with his. That's another guy whose career could be over, not because of just he could be just one of those guys that's susceptible to a lot of head injuries, and he's had another concussion. Teddy Bridgewater got the start; he got hurt. Skylar Thompson had to come in. And Miami kept it close with New England, but New England did New England things, and they did just enough. 20 of 33 with Mac Jones and 2 touchdowns. He'll put together some games like this every now and again, and he did. And the Patriots hold on, and they go to 8-8, 4-4 at home. These two teams are going to be battling for the last playoff spot this weekend as well. Thoughts on the Patriots getting it done at home against Miami?
Man, I'll tell you what, this dude Teddy Bridgewater has the worst luck in the NFL. The dude finally gets to start. It seems like every time he goes in there to play, he always gets pulled out of the game due to a head injury or whatever the case may be. Having in Minnesota, he was finally going to start. They were starting to build around him in Minnesota when he was still on his rookie contract over there. When we still had Mike Zimmer, it's unfortunate that happened to his leg where he blew his knee out, his leg out or whatever, and they were lucky. He's lucky that he didn't lose his leg. He got released by the Jets. Remember, the Jets released him and they told him to get off the bus or whatever it was, and they made him walk home.
Yeah.
He looked good in New Orleans. He should have stayed in New Orleans a lot longer right now. New Orleans would have him as a quarterback. And who knows how that thing would have played out. But it just seems like Teddy Bridgewater has always had the bad luck in the NFL, man. I feel bad for the guy because he's a really, really nice guy, man. What he did for Minnesota, the community and all that. That guy's got a bright heart. That's the guy that you tilt your hat to. But Skylar Thompson, it looks like he doesn't belong in the NFL. The running game for the Miami Dolphins is non-existent, even though they tried, but they weren't able to run the ball. Either that or New England's run defense is really, really good. the receivers over there in Miami, like they look like a bunch of average receivers because Raheem Mostert was the leader. So New England did what they always do. They take away your best option because Tyreek Hill only had 4 catches for 55 yards. So they had to work around that project. The Miami Dolphins, Raheem Mostert was their leader. 8 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. So, I mean, if you can take away the passing game, like the deep threat, that Miami is not going to really beat you any other way. But then you also have to take into consideration, too, what wasn't in the game. As far as the New England Patriots, Mac Jones, like you said, puts together a pretty decent game. And I think that New England's probably going to make the playoffs, man. I think it's killing Bill Belichick to not make the playoffs this year because if he doesn't, then the talk is going to be just basically cemented. Tom Brady's made the playoffs every single year, so without Bill Belichick has Bill Belichick made the playoffs since Brady left the Patriots?
Yeah, he made it once.
He made it once compared to Tom Brady making it, what, 3 or 4 straight years, 3 years without Belichick. So Belichick has to get in the playoffs. I'm going to circle them in as the last team to make the playoffs.
Okay. We'll see if that happens. We'll talk about that on the picks. Game we're going to briefly touch about, and that's just the New York Giants. Nick Foles
Oh,
throws his
God.
second straight touchdown to another player on the opposite team back-to-back weeks. He is god-awful. Again, you want to talk about a vanilla ice player. He was a one-hit wonder with the Eagles, and they were lucky to have him as they got him a Super Bowl win. But he's been trash everywhere else he's been, so no surprise the Colts were obliterated by the Giants. Congratulations to the Giants for clinching a playoff spot. They're 9-6-1 as they win it at home for first-year coach. And, hey, the Giants are going to – I think they're one and done come postseason. But, hey, judging where they've been the last few years, this is a huge improvement, don't you think?
Well, first of all, if you're gonna ask me what I think, I'm gonna start with the game, the Colts versus the Giants. Well, every time the Colts lose, it brings so much joy to my life. It brings so much joy to my heart. And I know that in the past you said just Saturday you were like you kind of defended them a little bit, but hear me out on this one. Every time this is what goes down in my head every time I think of the Colts now. Every time they lose, which they're on like a 5 or 6 game losing streak, right?
Yeah.
Every time they take a massive loss like this, a historic loss, it brings so much joy to my life. Because just Saturday, he has the face of ESPN, bro. He's an ESPN analyst out there. And you know how we feel about ESPN analysts, bro.
Oh,
Experts and
absolutely.
all that. I just hope that Dan Orlowski and Mina Kimes are next in line for the coaching gig, bro. I want to see them absolutely fail at their jobs, bro. This is the best thing that could ever happen because now I got material against ESPN because these guys are supposed experts, right? But they send out one of their top experts that was an NFL player, and this guy's so knowledgeable in the NFL where you can't fucking coach a team up for shit or keep a 33-0 lead, bro. Like, I'm pretty sure outside of sports, he's a nice guy, and I probably get along with Jeff Saturday, but he's representing the company I can't stand because they sit there and brainwash you with the narrative of like the money teams like Dallas and the teams that they want to talk about, but they ignore everybody else. So this is a nice big, and I'm not supposed to say this, but this is a nice big fuck you to ESPN. That's your boy right there, representing the entire company right there. Fuck ESPN, and I'm glad that they got blown out. But as far as the New York Giants, bro, they're getting the job done, and I don't know if they're gonna be one and done, man. They were close to beating Minnesota, and Minnesota doesn't. They're having. Damn, we're not supposed to talk about that, huh? Because that's for like tomorrow's show or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
week
yeah.
after. Damn. All right. So we'll just leave it at that. I don't know if they're going to necessarily be a one and done. I've got my doubts on my team, and I'll tell you why I got my doubts on the team. It's nothing to do with the loss that we had towards Green Bay. That has a little bit to
And
do
we'll
with
get
it,
into that
but
soon here.
huh?
And we'll get into that soon.
Yeah. That's like, well, yeah, we'll get into it when we get there. But yeah, man, it was just a great one for New York. Proud of that guy, Debo,
Hmm.
Brian Debo, leading the Giants into the playoffs with basically just Saquon Barkley and a whole bunch of misfit players.
Only thing I would think that would be better for me if an analyst was going to go to a team would be putting a stupid ass Stephen A. Smith on an NBA roster and let him coach a team to failure.
He
Because
would not do it.
I can't stand him. He's the worst. Him and Skip Bayless are the worst. Let's move to the next game here. We're going to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, who lose at home for the second time. They fall to 13-3 under excuse me, under Gardner Minshew. Now, this was not a surprise to me. You picked the Saints. I went with the Eagles still to win this game, but the redheaded demon, Andy Dalton, got the job done, and it was mostly the defense and the offense playing keep away. And again, this is a system team. The Eagles are a system team. You take someone out of their comfort zone. Gardner Minshew is not a Jalen Hurts, and you expect Minshew to run the offense like Hurts. It's not going to happen. And he's more of a pocket passer, run around. He's not going to run around for 40 yards and on one play like Hurts can. And that affects the Eagles' offense. Eagles' offense has been in a mojo. I'm not saying this is going to screw them up, but they took a 20-10 loss. The time of possession was insanely in favor of the Saints. Dalton went 18 of 22, 205 and a pick, but they kept the ball away from the Eagles when they did have the ball. And, hey, tough loss for the Eagles, leaving that number one spot still kind of open going into the final week.
They're going to lose that number one spot. They're gonna lose it. They're just up and down. This game right here for me was I'm not gonna sit here and be like pump my chest out or nothing like that. But I had a feeling that the Eagles were gonna run into a problem somewhere in the season. I just didn't expect it to happen this late in the season. I thought that they were gonna run into as they say, adversity, like in the month of November, so that way in the month of December they can bounce back and they can clean up all their flaws. But now it just seems like all their flaws are starting to come out. Injuries are starting to come out. Now Jalen Hurts is almost demanding to be the starting quarterback. He says he doesn't care what the coaches have to say. That's a scary thought right there, where he's not a team player because of that. He should not have said nothing like that. He should let the coaches decide who's going to play and who's not, because the coaches are the most important aspect of any team, because they're the ones that put everything together, the game plan and all that. He's going against the grain, so that's a big red flag right there in my eyes. And it's going to show up in the long run, which is why the Eagles may not win the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, because he's showing signs of not being a team player, bro. That's like Russell Westbrook right there in the NBA. But yeah, the Eagles, like you said, everything you just said was really good. It's really, really solid. But the injuries are the big thing that stand out for me for the Philadelphia Eagles. They got players that are like coming in and out of the lineup, defensive line, like everything. They're starting to show signs of dysfunction, and it's a terrible time to do it at this point in the season, bro. Like, I don't know who they play. They play the Giants next. Man, I want to talk about next week already, but I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I keep wanting to skip over to the next week, but the Saints, man. I just wonder if the Saints win their next game, and let's say Green Bay. I don't think they have a chance at making the playoffs unless Detroit and Green Bay end up in a tie and Seattle loses. Maybe New Orleans squeezes into the playoffs, but I don't know. I think they're already mathematically eliminated. And if they get in, bro, the Saints and the Saints making the playoffs would be pretty scary, because nobody sees that coming.
Well, we'll go over the playoff implications here in a minute, but yeah, we'll have the scenarios. But look, last thing I'll say on the Eagles is they really didn't. You don't want to be playing, like you said, your worst football at the end of the year. Obviously, they had such a hot start. Injuries are going to do that to you. You want to stay as healthy as you can. It's up to the coaching now if they could turn it around this last week, and even if it's a game against the Giants, so the Giants have nothing to play for. You want to come out there and play pretty good, at least for a half, to show that, hey, we're back on track, we're okay. Then you can rest your guys and hopefully get that last seed, because they're going to have to play that game for a victory. They're not, because in all actuality, this game should just be an exhibition game. The Giants have nothing to play for, the Eagles have nothing to play for, but now you're still playing for seeding if you're the freaking Eagles. So you need this win more than the Giants. So they got to show up here. The Carolina Panthers did not show up in the second half, and that was the problem when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The division could have been theirs with a win and hopefully a win next week. However, the Panthers came in and did what inconsistent teams do. They fall to 6-10, 1-6 on the road. They got off to a 14-0 lead. They let the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get within 4. They even went back up 21-10. It looked like it was over, but then Tom Brady just decided to throw 3 straight touchdowns to Mike Evans on the same play.
Same side, same play, same side of the field.
Yep, same play, same side, everything. He just called the same play. And Mike Evans, if you had him on your fantasy team for your playoff to get to the championship game, you likely won. 10 receptions.
Who started him after such a terrible season? Like, man, he's been playing so ass this whole entire season. Why am I going to start him? Next thing you see him on the bench, like, oh, shit.
Yeah, he either costed you the championship or he got you to the championship. Mike Evans, 10 catches, 207 yards, 3 touchdowns. Mostly all of that came on just, like you said, the same 3 throws by Brady. But Brady just torched that defense at the end. Carolina, hey, Their future looks bright. The only question now is, do you bring back Wilkes as a coach? Because he didn't do good in Arizona with a one season, but did he catch fire with Carolina, or do you just go another way? And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's embarrassing. You're going to go in at a division champ, either at 500 or below 500 if they choose to play anybody in that last game. But the fact is, you're going to be hosting a playoff game. What do you think their chances are?
Moving forward in the playoffs.
Yeah, what do you think the optimism for Carolina is, and then them moving forward as far as Tampa Bay?
As far as Carolina, I think they should keep that coach. He did so. How many players like he brought that team so close to winning the division, man. Like you were behind them. You wanted them to win the division over the Buccaneers, and it just goes to show you that they didn't have enough. They got rid of Christian McCaffrey, and they got rid of Robbie Anderson and a few other players, Baker Mayfield, and they were just sitting there basically on fumes. They were fighting. They're a feisty little bunch. Their defense is still pretty solid. It's just that they didn't have enough to compete in the end of to win the division. With the Buccaneers, I knew that the Buccaneers were going to win this game. The reason I knew that the Buccaneers were going to win is it finally hit me. It finally clicked in my head. I was like, dude, every time you want Tom Brady to go away, like, this dude sucks, get him out of here, he just comes right back. He's like that one annoying neighbor. You're like, all right, he's gone. You're looking out, you're peeping out your window. You're like, all right, he's not home. And next thing you know, as soon as you get in your car, guess who's rolling up right behind you? Like, hey, where are we going? He's gonna be hitting you up like, "Are we going to Maritza's?" He's gonna want to go get some food with you. But no, man. The Buccaneers are a scary team in the playoffs because everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, they suck and all this and that," and the Dallas Cowboys are gonna be like, "Yeah, we're gonna walk in there and we're gonna beat them." Man, I'm talking about next week or the week after. I gotta stop. But yeah, man, that's a team that when you count them out, that's when they play their best. It's just a natural fact. So when you're thinking that you're going to overlook the Buccaneers, that's when they're going to smack you. They're going to pull the rug underneath your feet and make you land on your face. And look what happened to the Panthers.
Yeah, my guilty pleasure this year was to see if the Panthers, or not the Panthers, but the Bucs could miss the playoffs. I was really hoping that one of those teams in that sucky-ass division would come back and make a run at them and take them out. But unfortunately, we're going to see Tom Brady in the postseason again. That'll move us on to a game that severely disappointed me as a football fan. Now, I've been against the organization because I don't like Dan Snyder. I don't like his stance as far as bending over for the league. That's another story altogether. But Washington loses 24-10 at home with their playoff chances still alive. And here's one thing. Again, let me preference it this way. With someone who lost his mom to cancer, I felt for the guy, Juan Rivera, losing his mother earlier in the year. He battled and beat cancer. So on a personal level, I like the guy. On a football level, he had my respect. He's took in two organizations and worked them really hard, had playoff success, everything. But I will criticize the F out of him for putting in a piece of shit quarterback. And I mean this with all my heart. I hate Carson Wentz. He's a piece of shit. He's not done nothing to my team. But he's a guy who is taking up a roster spot and taking up several million from every team he's ever been a part of. He sucks. He holds the ball too much. He's not a leader. He throws stupid passes, and he's captain checkdown. He should wear a captain checkdown hat because that's what he is. He's terrible. And somehow, some way, you have a guy like Heineke who's proving himself. And yes, he'll throw a couple bad passes, but he's a gunslinger, like you've said. And he'll win you games. He gives you the best opportunity to win. Nobody was asking for Heineke on the team, or nobody was asking for Wentz. Nobody was trying to see, hey, we need another leader. It's the quarterback's fault. Nobody on that team was screaming at, not even their freaking media. Yet Juan Rivera makes it a quarterback controversy through the media and then decides to pull the trigger when nobody wanted him. We know what he's done this year. All those wins that Washington has, the most of them came from freaking Heineke. So why are you going to make it a late season with a season on the line? You ride the guy who got you there. You don't go to Carson Wentz. And what did he do? He went to Carson Wentz, and you got what you paid for. You Rivera, I love you, man. But to me, if Schneider had any balls and was a real owner, I'd fire your ass. Because that's stupid. You just committed suicide to your season. Sorry, I had to rant. Cleveland wins 24-10.
Yeah, you didn't even speak on Cleveland, man. You didn't even say nothing about Cleveland.
There's no need to, bro. Deshaun Watson throws 9 passes, 3 of them are touchdowns.
Yeah, you got a point there. Basically, a typical Cleveland Browns game. Good defense, run the ball, and that's about it, right? That was enough to beat Washington.
Yeah.
And to add to your point about Carson Wentz, man, guess what happened to Carson Wentz?
What happened?
He got cut.
Oh, he did. See, I didn't.
He got cut. He got released. So now, guess what they're going? Guess what they're going back to now that it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that going to do for the locker room, bro? How are you going to trust your coach?
Yeah, Ron Rivera's lost it, man. I'm with you, man, and like this goes on a personal level. Like I like seeing Ron Rivera because he's like the only Hispanic that's out there that's a head coach that's ever really gotten a chance, and they actually showed signs that he can be a good coach. But goodness gracious, bro, how do you go to Carson Wentz? Like next thing you know, he remains head coach out there in Washington. He's gonna go after Matt Ryan. Like this guy's proven himself in the past. Let's go and trade a first round pick. No, but in all seriousness, man, Washington, it felt like they were going to win this game at first. They had the lead. It was 7-3 or 10-3 or something like that. And then Cleveland just barrels through it. And then they just walk away with the win in Washington. And that helped out the playoff seedings for Green Bay because Washington had it locked up. They had it locked up. But like you said, the quarterback controversy and all that, and them going back and forth, basically playing wiggling back and forth on the fence and not knowing who to go with. That's what costed the Commanders or the Wolf, whatever you want to call them, Redskins. That's what costed them the season.
Yeah, three interceptions for Wentz plus a handful of sacks. They gave the game to Cleveland. They really did, and it was 24-10, but it could have been 44-10. They really just did not show up, and that's pathetic. And a game that, again, you said they control their own destiny. You win out, you're in. You know, and my team doesn't matter. Green Bay doesn't matter. Detroit doesn't matter. All they had to do was do the same thing the Giants did, and they couldn't do it because they were too busy battling themselves. So
you almost gotta wonder if that was if Ron Rivera got paid to pull that move, man. Like you almost gotta wonder if Green Bay paid Washington to mess that game. I don't know. Like that doesn't make no sense. Washington they were a clear cut favorites to make the playoffs like a month ago, if not like a week and a half ago. They were just right there. And next thing you know, they want to sit, like you said, it just doesn't make sense. Ron Rivera's been too much of a good coach for him to sit there and wiggle back and forth between a quarterback that's showing signs that he's going to be a decent, not great quarterback like Heineke, and the locker room likes him. And then you go back to Carson Wentz, a guy that's proven. Remember that interception he threw in against the Tennessee Titans in the red zone? Yep. Had Taylor Heineke been the quarterback in that position, they would have won that game, and they would have won this game against Cleveland. It just doesn't make any sense. That's 2 wins that they could have easily had on their schedule right there. They would be locked in the playoffs, them and the Giants. It's just, bro, it's a head scratcher. I'm almost willing to bet if there is any rigging in the NFL, any betting or whatever, that has to be it right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a clear sign right there. At least if you could kind of like fight for that right there. We're going to move on to a game real quick. Touch on this one. There's not much to say because Jacksonville didn't even have to win this game despite what Tennessee did. They go to 8-8, 4-5 on the road. They blast Houston, which is the first bad loss in a while for Houston, considering they have 13 of them. 0-7 at home and 1. 31-3, not even close. Not much to say on this one other than Jacksonville's getting ready for this week's playoff game for the division.
Man, you got me on this one. Like I'm trying to find something to touch on other than Davis Mills throwing for 40 pass attempts and completing 22 of those for 202 yards. You would think that throwing it 40 times, you would have close to like 300 or 350 yards and like 2 to 3 touchdowns. But this dude had 202 yards with 40 pass attempts. That's terrible. And in the run game, they ran the ball pretty decently. It was almost like they ran the ball 14. They ran it for over 20 attempts, and he spread the ball out. Davis Mills. There's a whole bunch of receivers that caught the ball. There's like 10 receivers, but it's just one of those like how the hell do you do all that and only come away with 3 points? And how like the Jaguars look like they're the clear favorites to win that division.
They are. And real quickly, Sonia checked in. They've been going back and forth, her and Dana and a few others. But she's saying, as she's our Washington insider, that they're going to go with another quarterback named Sam Howell. So whatever Heineke said or did, whether he did or not, Juan Rivera is either swallowing his pride or he's mad at Heineke. and he's not going to, or he's not swallowing his pride. He's going to start a different quarterback altogether this week for the last game.
Oh man.
Weird.
To me, it sounds like he's ready to leave that job. To me, it sounds like this upcoming weekend will be his last game as a coach of that team.
Could be.
Yeah, he's gone. That's going to be another team that opens up right there.
Yep. And that'll bring us to our next game. The San Francisco 49ers, probably one of the best rosters in football. They're playing their best football at the right time. They're 12-4, 5-3 on the road. They went into Las Vegas to play. There it is. 6-10. I'll admit, man, when Derek Carr was taken out of the lineup, I thought they would get blasted. But Jared Strawham, or whatever you want to say his name, played his ass off. 23 of 34, 365, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Josh Jacobs rushed for 69. Devontae Adams made an insane catch. 7 for 153. Waller plus 2 touchdowns. Waller had a touchdown and 72 yards. But Brock Purdy gets another win. He's undefeated, and he's cocky as funk, which I hate. Christian McCaffrey rushed for 121 yards. Brandon Ayuk had 101. This was the game of the day to me. Went back and forth before Bosa made Strom throw the interception, and the Niners get a chip shot field goal in overtime. But great game between the Niners and Raiders.
Yeah, it's definitely a great game, but I'm looking at these stats and how the hell did the 49ers get 37 points? They got 2 passing. They got 2 passing. They got 2 rushing. That's going to be 28, and then a few field goals. Okay. The 49ers got a complete team, and if you look at their rushing, they're such a balanced team because they got more rushers than they got receivers. They're throwing everybody to run the ball. They've got the quarterback. They've got Brandon Ayuk, and then when Deebo Samuel hasn't even laced them up in a few games, like Deebo Samuel's going to be ready for the playoffs. And if the 49ers get that number 1 seed, man, oh man, good luck to anybody going into San Francisco, including my Vikings. That's basically, you might as well circle the 49ers in to go to the Super Bowl. But the 49ers got into a battle with the Raiders. Nobody seen that the Raiders were going to play that good because Jarrett Stidham was a quarterback. And looking at the scores by quarter, it was a back and forth throughout the entire game. So it's not one of those, they sucked this quarter in the first half, second half, they let off. No, it was back and forth. They matched each other up except the first quarter. And then the fourth quarter, those are the only two. It's really a 6-point difference right there. And then it even went into overtime. So, yeah, I mean, the Raiders, it's gonna be sad if they go out winning and they put up like a 50 burger on whoever they play next week, because where was this this entire season? It's gonna be one of those, don't win when the season is completely lost. Like, you're messing up your draft boards because of that. So now you just got to sit there and just swallow that the season is over, and then just got to hope for a better draft spot.
Pretty much, the Raiders got to decide on a lot of things if they're going to bring back McDaniel. Like you said, quarterback situation. It's all up in the air, man. But yeah, the Niners look poised, man, and I hate to say it, but go Philadelphia. I want them to get that first round bye.
Even if Philadelphia gets that first round bye or the number 1, I still got the Niners going in there and beating them. There's that. I know. Like, I keep cutting myself off, but I can't hold myself back on this one. The Niners they've beaten everybody in the playoffs, if not regular season, soundly within the last 2 years, bro. They obviously, the only team that they haven't beaten that I can remember within the last 2 years is the Eagles. But even right now, with the way the Eagles are looking, bro, the 49ers look like they could go right into Philadelphia and just stomp the Eagles out, bro. It's just the Niners to me, clear-cut favors, bro. They got everything you could ask for in a team. Everything you could ask for in a team. And like you said, a rookie, irrelevant quarterback being cocky, bro. Like, what's that shit? That's and then they got, man, let me just shut up. We gotta wait. We gotta save that up for tomorrow, bro. But the 49ers are a team that I hate to say it, bro, but they might be the team that might possibly win the Super Bowl, bro.
That's the only team that I could say that if they got to the Super Bowl, you know how you say, yeah, you can't bet with your heart. You got to bet with your money if your house was on it or whatever like that. Yeah, there's no way I could bet against the Niners. And I hate saying that as a Seahawks fan, but I'm just being real.
I'm gonna take it a step further. Instead of thinking about, okay, if I'm gonna put my whole entire paycheck or if I'm gonna put my house mortgage on this game or on this team, who do I trust more? if there's a person if there's a I'm gonna try and make sense of it, but if there's two people holding a gun to your kids or one of your kids' heads, right, and it's either the 49ers or it's like another team that you want to think of, who do you think is gonna actually pull the trigger to get the point across, the 49ers or the other team? I'm going 49ers, bro. Like the 49ers are my clear cut favorites in any situation, bro.
And here's my thing, dude. I'm not a Kyle Shanahan fan, but I will say that he always has the Niners not intimidated by whoever they play, wherever they play. Whether it's home or a road, he's always got them pumped, always got them ready to go. And even when they lose, they don't look like they've just gotten beat with their heads down. You know what I mean? Like, that's a well coached team.
When was the last time the Niners lost and who did they lose to?
It's been a while, man. Like I said, it was in the first half of the season. They're on, I think, an 8 game winning streak right now because they were 4-4 at the time. So it's been a crazy time right now for the Niners.
And
Not
three quarterbacks, they've gone through three quarterbacks. They went through the Trey Lance experience for like a half, a quarter or whatever it was. You were at the game. And then they went through the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. And now they're going through Mr. Irrelevant, a quarterback. And Tom Brady 2.0 possibly.
possibly. I hope not. I hope not. That's coming from a Seahawks fan. But again, speaking
Gotta
of
be
the
smart.
Seahawks, the Jets fall to 7-9. The Seahawks go to 8-8, 4-4 at home. That's crazy to think of Seattle as a 4-4 home team. If they were 6-2, we wouldn't even be talking about them struggling for their playoff lives. But here's the thing I'm gonna say on this game is the Jets and Seahawks are a lot alike. The Jets defense obviously is better than the Seahawks defense, but our offense is better than theirs, and their offense is mediocre. Our defense is mediocre. So, and we're both two teams that if you get punched in the face, if you run on them, you can control the game, you can keep the ball out of their hands. They're not very good comeback teams, and I think you saw that here. Seattle was able to punch him in the face right away with Kenneth Walker. He rushed for 23 times, 133 yards. Had a great game on the ground. DJ Dallas put some yards up. It kind of made the Jets one-dimensional. They made mistakes. And I'm sure if the Jets had done the same thing to the Seahawks, punched them in the face, took the early lead, made the Seahawks one-dimensional like we've seen them lose, games this year, like with Geno Smith, I'm pretty sure the score would be the other way, the Jets. But it was a little frustrating for me as a football fan that this game was not a lot closer. I expected the Jets to do a lot more, at least in the second half. Seattle gave them a lot of chances there in the second half by not doing too much to keep them in the football game, missing field goals, turning the ball over on downs, not really doing much. The Jets had their opportunities in this game, but just never capitalized. Seattle wins 23-6 and keeps their playoff hopes alive, and in the same time eliminates the Jets.
Yeah, wow, the Jets were still in it.
Yeah, they were still in it with a win.
Wow, I thought they were out of it like a week or two ago. Looking at the scores. It was like you said, mirror images. But I mean the excuses are starting to run out for Robert Saleh. I mean he's got his boy Mike White. You passed it 46 times, so you got confidence in your quarterback, right? You're gonna set him back there for basically throwing 50 times in one game. So I mean you got confidence in him, so there's no excuses. He's got his quarterback. He's got his quarterback. I think he was the one that drafted Zach Wilson. So the excuses for him and his we're gonna hold everybody accountable, and I'm holding you accountable too. I think that Zach Wilson. I know that I got a little bit of heat for defending Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson is just not in the right system because if you look at the wide receivers, what the hell did they bring in Tyler Conklin and C.J. Usama? I keep wondering like what did they bring? What did those guys sign with the Jets for? Other than the contracts, they're not being used properly. Tyler Conklin finally shows up with 6 catches and 80 yards. C.J. Usama, if you put him back in Cincinnati, he's going to get an average of like 6 to 7 catches for like 40 or 50 yards on a gamely basis. And then you look at everybody else, all these wide receivers just look really inconsistent. You got Wilson, you got all these other playmakers. It's just the offense that's being run over there in New York is not it, man. I think if the New York just want to get rid of Zach Wilson, don't want to sign him, Minnesota better jump on him because he's so young and he's raw talent. He's got the arm, and I would not mind having him in Minnesota. I'm going to stand by it until he retires or until he proves me that he completely sucks. But I'm going to look at the system that he's in. When was the last time there was an actual decent quarterback in New York with the Jets?
Yeah, it's true. And well, Look, they're another team that's going to have to question a lot in the offseason whether they're going to try to continue to work on the offense. They're going to need some weapons. But I know Randy's been talking about wanting Derek Carr. That could be an option, a quick
Oh,
fix.
get out of here with that, dude. Derek Carr has been in the NFL for a lot longer than Zach. I don't know, man. I'm gonna let Randy just be Randy, bro. Yeah, it is what it is.
Well, there
Derek
was
Carr, though. Raider fans don't even want that guy. If Raider fans don't want him and they haven't had a quarterback in a long time, how is this guy that's not wanted by a team that hasn't had a quarterback? How's he going to go to a team that hasn't had a basically same situation? Same situation. What do you want Derek Carr over there for? You're gonna before you know it by mid-season next year, you're gonna be booing him. This guy sucks. It's the same thing. That's the Jets fans for you.
all right. Well, the Jets take the loss, and unfortunately, if they had won that game, they'd be in a three-way tie with Miami and the Patriots going into the final week of the season. So they now have to think about their offseason and what they're going to do moving forward. So let's move forward ourselves to your game. I'm going to tell you right now, I did not watch a lick of this game because I was focused in on my team, hopefully not blowing it. But when I saw that Jordan Love was in there and Nick Mullins, you would assume the Vikings were blowing them out, but it was the other way around, 41-17. Let me just ask you this. Were the Vikings trying to win?
No, Green Bay brought it, bro. Green Bay brought it. They beat us soundly. They beat us on all three aspects of the game. They beat us on special teams. It looked like in the beginning of the game we got that block punt and we got the ball at the 1 yard line. You would think that Minnesota, with the way that they can move the ball, we're going to be able to go right in there and score, no problem. But Green Bay's defense stepped up. Green Bay's defense kept the game, the Packers offense in line. Like they kept them in the game until the offense got it going. And kudos to them, bro. It was a win or go home situation. Now the thing about this game is everybody's I seen all the memes and everybody's talking about how Jair Alexander owns Justin Jefferson and all that. But hey, that's what makes this rivalry so great, bro. I like how I like both Jair and Justin Jefferson, their post game interviews and the way they both approach the game before and after. Jair Alexander got cocky. He's starting to remind me so much of Richard Sherman with his cocky arrogance. Remember how you said
Mm-hmm.
that's a guy that I love having on my team, but would hate to have having a division. He's Richard Sherman 2.0, bro. He can back it up. Gotta respect him. If he was a Viking, I'd love him because I'd be like, hell yeah, he's about to go there and dog on whatever wide receiver. But as a Viking fan, I hate him, but I know but that if he was with the Vikings, I'd love him. And Justin Jefferson, he got him the first game, but they got us the second game. So I mean, it's a rivalry. That's what tends to happen. It happens. The Packers needed that win a lot more than Minnesota. And then another thing, Minnesota, they've got injuries now to the offensive line. We just signed some practice squad offensive linemen, bro. It's just like the Eagles. We're starting to have our flaws, and the injuries are starting to pile up. It was never in doubt, like that the Minnesota Vikings could win the whole entire Super Bowl. I thought that they had a chance, a small little itty bitty chance, but I wasn't going to sit here and pump my chest up. I had beliefs a little bit, but now with the injuries and all, it's going to take a lot for this team to get out of the play, like make it through the playoffs because of the injuries, and you got to worry about all the other teams playing hot. So I mean, well, it is what it is about that. But yeah, Green Bay needed that one, and now they host the Detroit Lions, another rival, at home Sunday Night Football. So we'll see how that one plays out.
That's gonna be another good game right there. But this was a huge game because the Vikings, if they could have won that game, knowing what Philadelphia did, earlier in the day, they could have been in a first place tie for that overall number one spot. So that's a tough loss
Boy,
right there.
yeah, now, since you brought that up, man, how about the 49ers staying strong and committed to we just got to win. Eventually, something's going to crack. And boy, man, they are led by a great coach and a great GM. Man, that whole entire organization, ever since they got Lynch over there, bro, Kyle Shanahan, man, you gotta give them nothing but respect. I approve them, bro, like as the best, one of the best teams. And it's historic, too, one of the best teams of all time.
Exactly. Best organization. But they do have some chinks in the armor past this season. We'll see how that plays out. Now we're going to get to a game that we're briefly going to touch on. The Rams go to 5-11, 1-6 on the road. Chargers continue to roll a little bit, 10-8. They made mincemeat out of the Rams. They win 31-10. Not much to talk about. Eckler 10 for 122 and 2 touchdowns. They win the Battle of Los Angeles, if you want to call it that.
I got one quick question. I got two quick questions for you. You're gonna love the first one. The second one, I'm gonna ask you as a football fan.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, I want to see. I want you to look at the camera.
Okay.
Whose house?
Anyone who plays the Rams.
Second question, man. That was just a sarcastic question right now because that's what the Rams do at home. They always now it does get annoying after a while. It's like you're at home. You purchased a ticket. You work for the Rams. You're the announcer for the Rams. You should know whose house it is. That's unoriginal right there, uncreative by the Rams. They should get rid of that next year. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, bro. The question I want to ask you, everybody's boyfriend and everybody's media dart and everybody's over there masturbating to Baker Mayfield. What has he done, bro? He had the Denver Broncos game and that one final drive against the Raiders. But outside of that, right there, bro. I mean, that is big, but bro, he's overrated. He's overrated. I hope the Rams bring him back just to see if he can actually prove me wrong. But I don't. Baker Mayfield. This is what his third team, and he's just been the most inconsistent quarterback. He's got the cockiness. He's basically like Drew Lock. I remember
Mm-hmm.
you said that Drew Lock has a whole lot of confidence for doing a whole lot of nothing in the NFL,
Yep.
and that's where I stand with Baker Mayfield. The reason I'm starting to like really despise the dude is because everybody sits here and has these visual orgasms whenever he does something. Like, what the hell does he do, bro? Like, he completes a couple passes and everybody's over there busting jizzes all over the wall because he completes like three straight passes. Like, come on, bro. Let's act like we've been there before. Like, come on, it's nothing new. Like, the man on a bad game, nobody wants to talk about Baker Mayfield. But then when the Rams went, did you see Baker Mayfield? Baker, like, man, I'm not trying to hear nothing about that, bro. He's basically doing all of this for nothing. He's just trying to work a contract up with another team out there.
All I'm going to say is that the Rams fans are not knowledgeable. And the fact that you're pumping up, I'd be scared if I was a real Rams fan and knew what's up. I'd be like, okay, let's not sign this guy back. We already got a bunch of contract problems for next year. Let's just try to get younger. I'm not. There's Rams fans I know, supposed Rams fans, that are saying we should cut Stafford, but you're still going to take the cap hit. So that's what you're not figuring in on. He's got a huge number this year. So, I mean, even if you were to keep Baker, Baker is going to want a few $1,000,000, which you don't have. And he hasn't come through. Yeah, like you said, he came through against Denver, but who hasn't come through against Denver?
Exactly.
So it's like, dude, like, chill, And
Against that one game, there was like three or four pick sixes. There was like three or four pick
yeah.
sixes against the Broncos. So I mean, come on, let's ignore that game. What else has he done? He got them the game winning drive. Man, it was 1-on-1. Anybody could have made that pass, man. With that one game winning touchdown. Let's pump the brakes on this dude Baker Mayfield, bro. What has he done in his NFL? Honestly, what has he done in the NFL?
Had he blasted the freaking what do you call it? What was the game? The Chargers. Had he put up a lot of points against the Chargers? Had he done other things in other games where he was just like, hey, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, no picks? Then maybe you could be like, okay, well he's hot. He fits that offense. Who knows? Maybe we bring him back if we can afford him. He's not a shoo-in to come back. He's obviously auditioning for other teams.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm taking this one with a grain of salt, man. And to answer your question, he had that one good year in Cleveland. You can put up an excuse train for him saying, well, he's gone through a lot of coaches and a lot of offensive coordinators. I'll give him that. But I just feel that he's one of these guys that he either gets a lot of praise when he wins and a lot of shit when he loses.
Even when he wins, he's getting a lot of shit from him, bro. He's too inconsistent.
Okay. Well, everyone's got their opinion on him, and I'm hot and cold on that dude, but I'm not to the point where I'm like, oh my god, he has to come back as a starter. I think that's a mistake if you're a Rams team right there, but hopefully they make that mistake. Now moving on to the Sunday night game, which was actually pretty boring for 3 quarters, but fourth quarter got pretty exciting. That's where I came in and watched the Pittsburgh Steelers come from behind. They were down 13-3.
Did you have your barbecue grill going and had a TV and clapped your hands with these?
Yeah, I did a golf clap from outside when they scored a touchdown.
Let's go.
Yeah, I was one of the super casuals on that one. What do you got? By the way, is that podcast still on? Is that still up somewhere?
It's on my YouTube channel. You just gotta scroll down all the way. Like it's a pretty. I might have to upload it to the Out of Bounds page so that way people can see what we're talking about. You gotta listen to it when I upload it on the Out of Bounds page. You got to. It's a must listen to.
Bro, just on the side note, when I talked shit to him that one time, I'm like, you know that episode that you did, and I called him out. I'm like, you know, you got all those views because of us, right? That
I mean, it's good though, bro. Like if you need comic relief, that's the one that you go to right there.
because he's so dead serious. It's hilarious. Fandom in football, gotta love it. Kenny Pickett appears to be your quarterback for the future. Although they didn't take the restraints off of him and let him throw the ball downfield, when he does, he's pretty goddamn accurate. And I like the way he throws in the run, really accurate. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Pickett. He looks like a skinnier version of Ben Roethlisberger in the pocket.
Yes.
Very, very good. I think the Steelers, as long as they have Tomlin, they're going to focus on the run first. But man, I'm telling you, if they need to throw, Pickett's got the arm. I like him. So good win for the Steelers. Bad loss for the Ravens. Even though they don't have Lamar Jackson in there, Huntley is capable of winning, but not on this night. The Steelers defense still showing tough, and they're going to finish probably above 500 again.
Man, so I gotta ask you. I think I figured out the answer before I asked it because of the way you just talked about Tyler Huntley. But are you still on the Tyler Huntley bandwagon?
You mean for Washington?
Tyler Huntley for no, just to be
Oh,
like a starting quarterback and Baltimore moving on from Lamar and keeping Tyler Huntley.
I think you're getting as good as you're going to get. I think Huntley can score you about maybe 15 to 20 points, but does that get you W's in the NFL? No. That just puts a shit ton of pressure on your defense. So, in the long run, I'd have to say he's a really good backup, but he's not your starter. And for what they're asking him to do to step in and do the same things as Lamar, I just think the Baltimore should get away from that shit. Let's reconstruct the offense. Obviously, you Baltimore's worst mistake, bro, this offseason is to believe in Lamar Jackson and give him what he wants. If they do that this year, they are going to set their franchise back because trust me, he will not outlive that contract.
Well, you got to think about it like this. You're saying go back, redo the whole offense. They had Joe Flacco in there for a little bit, and that looked pretty good. They won a Super Bowl, but their defense was mainly in charge of that one. But like, what do they do? Like,
Yeah,
do
but
they draft a
look,
quarterback?
let me just tell you this. I have not seen a Baltimore Ravens team, no matter if it was Belichick or not Belichick, who was it?
Billick,
Billick.
Brian Billick.
Yeah, Brian Billick and now Harbaugh they've done the same thing since Baltimore got there, which is defense first and then offense later. I when Cleveland first went to Baltimore, they had Vinny Testaverde was still their quarterback. And the only reason why I bring that up is because they had capable receivers, their defense was building, their offense threw the ball down the field. They had a receiver named Michael Jackson. They had a team that stretched the field. I have not seen the Baltimore Ravens stretch the field, throw the ball down the field. Even with Flacco at his best, Flacco was a check down quarterback. He threw the ball 10 yards at best. You know what I mean? Like, so you haven't had an open offense, a shotgun type offense, four receivers type thing. Baltimore has been the same goddamn team like the Steelers for every year since then. Do they continue it with Harbaugh coach again and Lamar, or do they move to something else? I think it's time for a change.
Yeah, they got to get a different offensive coordinator, keep the defense as is, and just bring in like get it an explosive minded offensive minded coach to be the offensive coordinator, paying top dollar, and make sure that he's the right guy, so that way he can get the best out of Lamar Jackson. Because Baltimore, I think, is going to fall into the trap of, if we don't sign Lamar Jackson, then we're going to have to rely on a rookie quarterback or on a journeyman quarterback. Because Tyler Huntley is not it, bro. I'm officially off the bandwagon. I seen him in person, and against Cleveland, they looked unimpressive. Mark Andrews, he finally had a good game, but I remember going and seeing him in person. He was dropping everything left and right. So, I mean, I think that it's just time. Like, I'm with you. I hope that they move on from that type of offense, but there's no signs that they're going to move away from that style of offense. Because even the running backs like J.K. Dobbins, they got a good run game, but I'm with you. But Why aren't they opening it up? Is it lack of receivers? But why aren't they doing nothing to go and try and trade for a wide receiver? Like they should go in the offseason and they should try and bring in a big time wide receiver. But that's the story with Baltimore every single year. What's Baltimore going to do for the offensive side? And they never do nothing.
Never. It's always
You know,
drafting defense every year.
you know what they're going to do,
Hmm.
or what they do. They wait until they're down to the very last option, and they go and sign a guy that's been in the league for like 15 years, like Deshaun Jackson.
Yep. It's stuff like that. It is tough. They put very little onus in their offense, which is weird. Which is weird. We're not going to touch on the Kansas City Cincinnati or the Buffalo Cincinnati game because obviously that game got postponed. But what we will do right now is get to the standings. We're going to figure out what's going to happen with that. Tomorrow's show, we're going to cover all the football stuff moving forward. We had a lot of people on today, so thank you for everyone who tuned in. Kansas City Chiefs are sitting pretty at top of the AFC at 13-3. Obviously, the outcome, what they're going to do with that game that was missed on Monday night is up in the air. But Cincinnati, with the Kansas City win, is eliminated from the number 1 spot, but they could jump to the number 2 spot with a win, so that's kind of huge. But Cincinnati would, if the playoffs started right now, it'd be Kansas City versus New England, because New England, Miami, and Pittsburgh are still alive for that final playoff spot. The Jets would need everyone to tie and lose, so they're pretty much eliminated. So basically it would be Kansas City versus, or no, I'm sorry, Buffalo versus New England, Cincinnati versus Los Angeles.
Ooh, that one would be good.
Yeah. So we have those kind of matchups going on. So we'll see what happens in the long run with that. And then also we move on to and Tennessee's playing for their playoff lives. They're still alive. They got to play the Jaguars.
5 straight losses, and they're still in it.
They're still in it, yeah.
Good old AFC South, NFC South, huh?
Yeah, South has been terrible. And we were sitting here thinking the East was going to be terrible, but the NFC East, but nope, that's the best division in football. Now over to the NFC. The Philadelphia Eagles are currently sitting in that number 1 spot, but the Niners are chewing at their heels. Vikings
Man.
are right there too. If the postseason were to start, well, here's the playoff scenarios basically like this: the Green Bay Detroit game was flexed to the Sunday night game. So if Seattle wins, Detroit gets eliminated, and before they even play. But if the Seattle loses, Detroit and Green Bay is win and get in by both teams. But if Seattle wins and Detroit is eliminated before the game, Detroit still has to play for, which I saw an interview with Dan Campbell because I had this question: will the Lions play for it if they're eliminated? And he said he wants to play for respect in a winning season, and also it's against the Green Bay Packers. He wants to beat the Packers. So Seahawk fans can at least count on Detroit playing their hardest to try to beat the Packers and eliminate them playing spoiler. But we'll see.
Oh.
The only way Seattle gets in is if Detroit beats Green Bay. So if the way the playoffs are stretched right now, or the Eagles would have the bye, the Niners would play either the Seahawks or the Packers in the first round. The Vikings would play the Giants, and the Buccaneers would play Dallas.
That Buccaneers Cowboys one's gonna be a funny one, bro. I got a feeling Tampa Bay is gonna win that one. That one right there spells super. Tampa Bay in the playoffs. I do not want to see Tampa Bay in the Tom Brady when he knows that it's winning. Forget it, bro. It's gonna for me. I'm gonna go ahead and just say it's a spoiler, bro. It's gonna be Tampa Bay versus the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Obviously, I've been favoring the 49ers, so I'll go with the 49ers because they'll get to that statue back there, and Tom Brady hates pressure, along with Aaron Rodgers. Can create a lot of pressure for Aaron Rodgers, and it's over with. It's over with. That's why the 49ers have had Aaron Rodgers' number the last 5 years, however it's been, and Aaron Rodgers has had a much better team in years past when he's gone into San Francisco or hosted the 49ers. And now you're telling me that we're going to rely on this inconsistent rookie. I mean, he's good when he's on the field like Watson, but he's inconsistent in terms of being injured. And then they got their issues with Bakhtiari. I know he's been playing, but can you trust him? He's been in and out. Like, I don't know, bro. I got the Niners. Niners.
Okay. And that's a lot of good games to be played on tomorrow or this Sunday. So we got a lot to look forward to. There's no Thursday night game. It's 2 Saturday games and no Monday night game. So it's a little weird right there. And again, we got to figure out what the NFL is going to do with that game popping up. Real quick though, I'm going to say about my Seahawks real quick, as they have they won the two games because back in the day they had one. I think it was the Holmgren years. It might have been like 2003 or something like that. They had won the division and beaten the Rams twice in the process with Mark Bolger at quarterback for the Rams in St. Louis. And they won the division, but St. Louis snuck in as the last one of the last wild cards, and they had to go to Seattle. It's very hard to beat a team three times in a season,
Yeah.
so it's been rarely done. And Seattle lost that game, and the Rams upset them. After getting beat twice bad, the Rams got the last laugh in the postseason. So the reason why I bring that up is if we do make it to the postseason, and if the standings stay the way they are, we're going to go to Frisco, and I would love nothing more than to knock out the Niners. Although I don't see it happening, I'm like, what is it, Jim Carrey from Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance.
I like that. That's perfect setup right there. I wish you would have just said that for the last, like your departing words right there. That would have been perfect. But I'm with you on that one, man. I'm with you on that one. If there's any team in the NFC that's still alive that can beat that has a chance of beating the 49ers, it's the Seahawks. The Seahawks have proven that they are not scared of the 49ers. If anything, I don't know if you got the numbers or if you know them by heart, what the matchups have been within the last like 5 years of heads up. Seattle versus San Francisco. I know Seattle's been rocking them lately.
Yeah, Seattle up until this year was 12-4 against them.
Yeah, so there you go. History's right there with Seattle, man. And even with when the 49ers were with Kaepernick and all that, the Seahawks still had their number, man. It's something about that matchup. Seattle just know how to beat the 49ers.
Yep. I still say that 2011 team when or 2012 team when the Niners went to the Super Bowl, um, they had lost that Atlanta game, the one you meme the shit out of me with.
Oh, the Seahawks.
Yeah, had they beaten Atlanta, they would have went to Frisco, and I think they would have beat Frisco.
Oh yeah, that's I knew it deep down inside. I was finger crossed. I was sitting there on pumping my fist. I was like, man, it's a good thing that Seattle lost because if they would have, because I know Seattle, like even up to this day, I know Seattle would have gotten to San Francisco and beaten them. The 49ers don't want Seattle in the playoffs.
No.
The arrogance is gonna say, oh, we want Seattle, we own them, we swept them. Like that's arrogance, bro. Like that's arrogance. You can't go based off of an arrogant fan base. You can't go based off of an arrogant opinion. You got to go to logical thoughts, bro. You got to sit there and think like what's real and what's like. Well, you got to ignore the arrogance because if you go like the Vikings announcer, the voice, man, that dude's gonna. I stopped listening to him because he sits there and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna win this game. We're gonna easily win it." Like he's arrogant, bro. Like there's arrogance in every fan base. If you can find the humble fans, then that's the ones that you can actually go back and forth with and not sit here and talk trash. And I mean, those are the ones that you really want to communicate with. But those arrogant ones, there's a dime dozen of those, dime a dozens.
Exactly. Oh, one quick thing before I get out of here. I have a correction. It would be in the AFC if the playoffs were to start today. It would be Buffalo facing either New England, Miami, or Pittsburgh in the first round. It would be Cincinnati, Baltimore. So again, two potential division matchups again for the third time, and then it would be Jacksonville versus the Chargers in the first round.
Hey, quick question about that. If, let's just say it does happen, Cincinnati and Baltimore, who would you pick?
Cincinnati.
Is that you gotta like that's what your brain, heart, and gut is telling you?
Yeah, Lamar or no Lamar, I think Cincinnati's far better.
I would have to agree with you on that one, but with me going so heavy on the Cincinnati Bengals, I flip it and go with the Ravens because when you feel so 100% confident, that's when things go sideways. It's not as predictable as any other sport or anything like that. I think that Baltimore would end up upsetting the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a divisional game too. So I mean, whenever that's the one thing that's also helped me out with these picks right here. That's why I'm sitting at 151 and 103 is that when I feel so confident in something so much where I'm like, man, something's not right. Why am I feeling so strong about this team? I flip it. I'm like, not. And I knew I shouldn't have picked the Jets over the Seahawks, man. I knew I shouldn't have picked the Jets over the Seahawks. That would have put me right there, right? We would have identical scores, records. I knew it because their quarterback situation is absolute trash, bro. But I felt like because that was one of my people pleasing moments because the chat was like, oh, we're all gonna go with the Jets. because Seattle, like I was like, all right, I'll listen to the chat, and then, but I had my intentions on Seattle. That's why last week or when we last did a show together, I was like, I said something about how the Seahawks could upset the Seahawks could beat the Jets, and you said something like, I don't know about that. I was like, really? I right there, I
Hmm.
was I had Seattle right there, but it was that people pleaser in me, man. And that's why I went with the Jets.
Well, I know one thing. Next season, we're definitely going to have Sonya in on it for the entire season because she went 12-3. She said so. 12-3 is not bad.
Sonia, have you been keeping track of your record like throughout the season? Because I know that she last week she did really good. She was right there with me, and I think this week I went. Let me see. I went 10-5. No. I went 11-4 without that Bengals Bill game. I went 11-4 in my picks.
Mm, that's not bad, man. I'm telling you, tomorrow's picks are going to be off the hook right now because again, I'll just go through the games real quick. It'll be Kansas City at Vegas. You got the playoff game pretty much. Tennessee at Jacksonville on Saturday night. You have Atlanta, Tampa Bay, which is nothing to play for both those teams. New England, Buffalo. What's going to be the mindset for Buffalo? What's the Patriots? How bad do they want that win to get in? Buffalo's going to need that win, but what's their mindset? The Minnesota Vikings, do they play everybody or they sit everybody against the Bears? Baltimore, obviously, they're in. Do they play anybody? Do they rest anybody? What do the Bengals do? Because I would think they would just sit there because they don't really have a position to fight for. Houston and Indianapolis, there's nothing going on there. Miami versus the Jets. Miami could be spoiler. The Jets could be spoiler in that game. Miami desperately needs that win. Carolina, New Orleans, nothing to play for there other than roster spots. Cleveland and Pittsburgh, that's a good rivalry game. Obviously, Pittsburgh still has a shot at the playoffs, so they got to
Man.
win.
Keep in
Cleveland,
mind that game is in Pittsburgh. That game is in Pittsburgh too. That's good luck, Cleveland.
exactly. And then go Chargers go as they're going to be playing the Broncos in Denver. Hopefully they have nothing to play for, but hopefully they can rack up another loss to Denver. New York Giants are probably going to rest their guys against Philly, but does Philly play their starters because they got to hold on to that number one seed?
Hmm.
Niners are going to have to play against the Cardinals to try to get that number one seed because they're both going to be playing at the same time. The Seahawks need a win to get in, obviously, and they're going to be playing the Rams. And then you got Washington, the Woke, who are going to play spoiler, I guess, against Dallas to try to keep them out of their spot. Dallas has still got a shot at that number one seed as
Oh
well.
no, man.
And then you got,
Hell nah. The
then you,
Commanders, bro. You got Carson. You got a coach that doesn't know who to put at. Yeah, give me the Cowboys, bro. That's a spoiler right there. I'm going Dallas in that one.
yeah, an inexperienced guy. I mean, you're not going to go with Heineke. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And then Green Bay, Detroit. Very interesting two teams. Obviously, if Seattle loses, it's a winner get in for both teams. Or does Detroit play the ultimate spoiler and kick Rodgers in the crotch?
Bro, that's the game I'm most 50-50 on right there. And that's a scary one because I honestly I'm waiting to see what my body tells me, seeing if I favor the Packers more, the Lions more. But whoever I'm favoring more, I'm picking against whoever I'm favoring because if I'm highly favored, like I just said, well, whoever you're so highly favored on, pick against that because it's gonna go against you and you're gonna be looking it's gonna just take my word, it's gonna go against you. If you're 100% sold on one team winning that game, then go the opposite way. Trust me, it works.
There you go. Sonia says she's only started collecting her records since she started watching us. So next year, hopefully on week one, we can go, get the people who are going to pick with us and stick with it all season. Because Sonia, I think, is going to give us a run for our money. She knows her sports.
Hey, that's what we got the playoffs for. Remember what I said? I'm gonna have a whole entire paper written down, and whoever it's free of charge. I'm saying whoever wants to sign up for the playoffs bracket, we're gonna see. It's only what 3 games in the NFC, the wild card division, and AFC and NFC championship games. So it's a total of 6 rounds, or whatever you want to look at it. But it's gonna be free of charge. If you want to sign up, let us know to tomorrow's show or next week's show or whenever you want to be a part of it. But it's you guys had to stay consistent because too many times it was too inconsistent. And that's why I only kept track of me, you, and Randy for a little bit until Randy disappeared. But if you're going to be consistent and sign up, you got to show up and you got to give us your picks as the show is going on, and then I'll be able to keep track for the whole entire playoffs. And we're going to see who the best football IQ mind is in the playoffs. And I'm rooting for everybody to have a winning record. Honestly, if you guys have a better postseason record than me, then so be it. Then you guys are going to be the lead dog going into next season.
Exactly. The only thing I was hoping for was to keep my losses under 100, so I didn't quite reach that. So hopefully next year I can improve on that. Um, so here we go. We're gonna. I think that's enough for me for this one. We went longer than I thought, but an hour and a half right there. We got our show for tomorrow, so check that out, and then we'll have different rules for the postseason, right?
Yeah, we'll come up with something creative. But like I said, the one thing that I'm really hanging on and hoping for is hopefully we get consistency and people coming into the show and making their drafts and we're making their picks. Even if you guys just drop in the comments and just slap all your picks, and then if you gotta go, you gotta go. I understand we all got stuff to do, but if you want to slap your picks and then just on one long comment, we can sit there and I'll write down your picks for you.
Yeah, that's what we should do. We should announce that for the postseason and far as for next season as well, moving forward. So there you go.
I'll make a little short of it. I'll make a little video of it so that way it'll be right there,
All
and
right, cool.
I'll pin it on our page.
But it has to be put on our live feed. So even if you just drop in for like a minute, like he said, it has to be for that.
Yeah,
So
because if like you go 1 week or 2 weeks of making the picks, and then you're like, and then you forget to show up on that third week, then all your picks are just going to go to waste. And I'm just being brutally honest because it won't be fair for the people that are actually staying consistent. It's got to be like 100% consistent, and it's not like it's a full season. It's only the playoffs. It's only like what, like a month.
yeah, exactly. So all right, brother. If you got anything else to say,
No, I'm just looking forward to the picks for tomorrow. But man, it sucks because we're getting that much closer and closer to the end of the season for a lot of these teams, and we won't see a lot of these teams until when? Until meaningful football until September.
yeah, we won't see any kind of spring or any kind of summer football till because they don't really play as much preseason anymore and they don't do the workouts like they used to. So it'll be August.
And too many times we get caught up in, oh, I can't wait for this weekend. I can't wait for that. Yeah, I can't wait. I can honestly wait because all you're doing is just pushing fast forward on the season.
Yep. So good night, Sonia, and everyone else on that's still here, part of the show. And we'll talk to you guys and gals tomorrow.
Peace.